Happy Sunday night, everybody, and welcome to Unlock the Middle Sunday Nights video cast. We are here tonight on episode number 60, Josh. We've gone through a few already here, but Sunday nights are always special. I'm Dean Packard. I'm the principal of Charlton Middle School in Charlton, Massachusetts. And alongside of me tonight, I have Josh Toba from the big state of Texas. Josh, how are you, my friend? Great to see you.
I'm doing great here in North Dallas, Garland ISD, Saxe, Texas, getting ready to get my learning groove on. You know, we're part of the Fantastic Four PD weekend here.
I love when you do that, man. You market us, and I love it.
It's all about branding, baby. It's all about getting your vision out there. I think that we have a great person tonight that pretty much embodies the whole concept of branding. What I mean by that, in this case, to me, there's a brand new economic system that's already here, but we're very blind to it because people are still writing checks. I write checks still, and you do everything online. But you know what? There's a brand new payment out there that a lot of educators are not well versed on, which is cryptocurrency, the metaverse, everything that's out there. We hear about it, but because we're really not into it, it's crucial that we have someone that gives us the 101 on that. Because you know what? Our kids, when they graduate, they're going to be running into that, if not already this moment, because they're into NFTs. They're into purchasing those items as high school students. Because if you see TikTok, the good side of TikTok, a lot of those kids are letting us know that they're already invested in that. And we have a great guest today that I heard with Principal Cafele, part of the Fantastic Four, and it's Principal Amen Rahh that's here to join us, because let me talk about vision. This guy's out of the box. He's over there. He's out there by making out of the box normal.
I'm excited, Josh. Now, before we bring him in, I just want to tell you a quick story. I remember about 10 years ago, sitting at the island in my kitchen, just around with some friends, and I had this guy say to me, "Hey, do you have any money to invest in this thing called Bitcoin?" And I'm looking at him like, "Are you out of your mind?" He goes, "Yeah, now's the time to do it. It's starting off." And I just looked at him like he had three heads. And you know what? 10 years later, I'm like, "Oh my God, why didn't I get involved with this?" But you're absolutely right. This isn't going away. And our kids in school today need to learn about this decentralized system of money and what's happening with it. You've got our own government now looking at ways to try to bring this to actually get involved with it, because it's happening around the world. And that's something. It's still in its infancy. And I'm excited about what that can do. And I have a financial literacy group in my school, although it's not that many, but we talk about stocks, bonds, and we talk about, how to invest and why to invest. But we also talk about crypto because it's right there. And that really excites me. I can't wait to see where this goes. So let me kick it over to you, and I'm going to bring them in right now. Why don't we do that? That might be a great segue to get it started. Good afternoon or good evening, my friend. You've been traveling all day, so I know that you might be a little bit tired, but welcome to the show, Principal Rahh. Nice to have you with us.
No, it's nice. It's nice to be here. I really appreciate the time that you guys have allowed for me to just come here and break bread with you guys and talk about all things where crypto meets education, or where education meets crypto, when it comes to revolutionizing the educational experience for our young people across our country. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, the first thing I'm going to throw right at you is tell us where you do, where you're at. You're out of California. You're a principal at this point in time. You started your own school. Why don't you talk a little bit about that before we start digging into the meat and potato?
Yeah, no doubt. So many know me as Principal Rahh. I'm a kid from Compton. I'm a kid from Compton that didn't really see the relevance in school when I was growing up. Was a football player, one-time rapper. And then, I read this book called The Alchemist, where it really transformed my life. And fast forward, I became a teacher. I became an educator, and became one of the youngest founding principal in LAUSD, where I opened up my own school, University Pathways Public Service Academy. And did some amazing things. We yielded a 100% graduation rate, our first graduating class. This year we're on track to have another 100% graduation rate, with 90% of our seniors right now accepted to four-year universities. But now I'm also now the founder of Revolutionary Education, which is a consultant firm that supports schools across the country when it comes to my best-selling book, Revolutionary School Culture and the 6 Principles of Unlocking Your School's Hidden Treasure. And then now I'm also the founder of K-12 Crypto, which is a learn-to-earn platform, allowing students across the country to earn cryptocurrency based off of metrics that they meet in school.
So you don't sleep, man. You don't sleep.
Right?
I kind of like it. You're on a mission. Hey, so help me out with this. Why financial literacy? Why do you think it's so important that all students need to know this?
I mean, we all hold currency, right?
We do.
So if we all are having these transactions with currency, I think it's almost common sense for us to learn and then have education around what to do with currency properly. And I think what's important is that, and I just want to note this: like crypto is more than just financial literacy. But I speak on financial literacy just at the forefront, not just with crypto, just in our school system and just in education alone. We need to be teaching our students the investment tools, how to use money, how to leverage money, but having just normal conversations about money. I don't know about you two gentlemen. Growing up where I came from, like money was taboo. We didn't talk about it. At the dinner table, you didn't talk about how much Pops was making. You didn't talk about it. It was all just a secret. It was that what I got from my parents was just save your money, son, and spend less. Like that was the financial literacy I got. And that's not fair when we're living in a society in which we're living in. So I just think it's important for us to have open and courageous conversations around how money works, how money is looked upon, how resources are used about it, but also how it's used to marginalize communities as well. And I think it's important if we want a fair playing field for us to have these conversations to educate our young people.
Love it.
So can you dissect a little bit more about that, about how it helps out our youth right now? And since let's talk about where you came from, and obviously where I came from a lower social economic area, minority. Our kids are way advanced from what you and I were at that level because they're all walking around with this.
Yep.
They're all walking around with that. So if you're an educator, if you're a student, how is technology involved in improving or the understanding of this universe?
Yeah, think about how we're communicating right now, right? We're communicating on technology. Like I have a 6-year-old, she'll be 7 soon, daughter. She's much more advanced than any of us when we were 7 years old when it comes to how to maneuver and have a relationship with technology. However, we limit the capabilities in many of our practices in our school. I go around and I support principals and superintendents, and I ask them one of the questions like, "What is your culture around technology?" Like, can you answer that question? Like, and a lot of times that answer goes to just like how many, if every kid has a device, like that's the culture. And like, that's so limited, right? In regards of like, how do your kids explore with technology? How do your kids exhibit with technology? How do your kids explain with technology? How do your kids analyze with technology, right? Like all these different things are really important when it comes to how we leverage tech. Unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, technology is not going anywhere, right? It's not. No matter how much you don't like the change, it's going to happen. Like I put on Twitter, not too long ago. I remember when Facebook first started, my father was like, "I'm not going to ever get on Facebook. I'm not going." Now he's doing snapshots and selfies like everybody else, right? And a lot of time it takes for kids that come from communities like mine, we wait for mass adoption. And a lot of times when mass adoption happened, we late and we're late to the party. And so many times you're late to the party, and then that ties into the financial or the skills that's needed to get the high paying jobs to change the trajectory of your family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and quite frankly, this isn't going to go away. So, I look in the standards that we have in my state. Financial literacy is not top on it at this point in time, and it's a real disservice, especially where I'm a principal at the middle level from grades 5 to 8. You want to talk about planting seeds at an early age and how important that is. You can't put a price tag on having kids understand how to balance a checkbook, but the value of money and where money is going and how money is a tool. And that tool is going to open doors for you if you learn how to maneuver it, gain it, and actually find ways to make it grow. And that's what this is all about right now.
Yeah, and I think like just to add, it's a mindset. And I would say this is, most kids, you can break down fundamentally what's the asset and what's the liability.
Yeah.
And you can talk about, okay, even your actions, discipline. What's an asset in your life right now? And what's a liability? And having this like courageous dialogue on having this financial mindset with input, output, right? Or how these things are like correlated is something that we must talk about, right? And how we want to accumulate assets, like attributes are really important. So when we think about that, now you can start tying in how does your money now acquire assets? Like I have a nephew that's like 11, 12, and he knows what money is. He knows that he wants to buy some more V-Bucks for Fortnite. He knows that he wants to buy some more things, right? And he also knows that he can learn assets, liabilities. He can learn these different fundamentals. Do he need to know everything? No, but he needs to know that money is a primary factor, something that he's going to have a relationship with, no matter where he goes in life. So I think it's important for us to note that and maneuver and lobby and advocate for us to continue to have this education in our schools.
When you're talking to the students, I'm sorry, Josh, I just want to jump in right here. Not only are you giving them foundational skills to survive and look at money as a tool for life, but how about career pathways? These are things that in schools, when we start talking about that, we want to help kids see outside of where they're at right now. And there are multiple pathways in which you can go. And, when your money is producing revenue streams for yourself, you can let your money work in any capacity you want. But let's talk about this in this capacity. This crypto is not going away. It's going to be big. It's going to produce opportunities for people to get involved and have jobs different than what we think right now. We spend a lot of time focusing on skill development, but those skills have got to match where these kids are going to go. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, first shout outs to the GOAT, Principal Kafele in the building, man. Appreciate you. I want to say this, and it's really important. CTE is talked about a lot in our schools across the country, but remember, like vocational skills were stripped to schools. A long time ago, and we were bringing them back in many different ways. But I think it's really important for exposure to be at the forefront for our kids. We don't expose our kids to enough high-paying jobs and careers so they can find their hidden treasure, right? And then now we just have our small schools, like for example, the school I open has a CTE pathway, right? We have a CTE pathway in public service and public safety, but there's over 60% of my kids do not really care about that pathway. So what happens to that kid, right? They're not exposed to the hidden treasure that lives inside of them. They're still not exposed to the purpose in which they were born here to provide the value to this world. So it's my job as a leader. And matter of fact, it's your two jobs as leaders. It's everybody that's here. Everybody has an obligation. They have an obligation to expose our young people to their hidden treasure in life. So that means that we must build robust programs that allows them to upskill their talents so they can not only be employable, but they can monetize their individual skills so they can live the life that they feel that they deserve to have, right? And I think that that's the most important thing, is that how do we use financial tools and technology and a philosophy shift to upskill and expose kids to what they love to do? I say it all the time. Our education, in many ways, we try to expose kids to what we want to expose them to, but we don't expose kids to what they need to be exposed to. And those two things are fundamentally different. So if those two things are fundamentally different, that means we need a philosophy shift. And that philosophy shift has to be principled in exposure, engagement, and leveraging in regards to the tools that exist in our society right now. I just read something, Dean. 48% of the jobs that exist now will not exist in the next 10 years.
That's right.
48%. But yet we are still exposing students, saying that you're going to go into this pathway that is literally like a dead end. Tell me, why does that make sense? I'm gonna leave it there because I can go for a while.
No, you're revitalizing education. You are taking us out of the 70s and bringing us up to where we are today. One of the questions I just had texted to me while we were going right here is, when you have budgets that are level funded and you want technology to move forward, with today's times, it's so hard to fund what we need to have to make it happen, and successfully fund it year over year when that funding level isn't there. But that's a whole different ballgame with all of this. But Josh, I want to kick it over to you.
So, Principal, I was wondering, I'm a high believer in Don Miguel Ruiz for agreements. And he talks about the domestication of the brain and how we're domesticated by our public, like you said, how public education segues kids into the 4-year track, bachelor's, master's, PhD. Well, since you're consulting, you've created a high school with success, with a high graduation rate, and you're embedding the crypto metaverse. Okay, so you're breaking that domestication. You're breaking that. So how about for all of us? What have you been consulting other leaders as? How do you help them embed this as part of their state requirements with what you're bringing to the table? Because you're doing that right now, being a consultant. So how am I in School 101 in the middle of Iowa in North Dallas? How do I start embedding that? Because you know what? For me, it's the how. Show me how from your eyes, because you've been successful at it. So I believe in your vision because you've done it before. You can't fake the funk when you've done it before, as Principal Cafele says.
Right. I think one of the most important things is understanding when we're specifically talking about crypto, there's already policies that's been made to start embedding crypto education in our country. So Georgia passed an assembly bill for high schools and middle schools to start teaching blockchain and cryptocurrency in the school as electives, right? So you can take time to go look that up. But what I would say this is, for us to be successful, education provides hope. When you have a high quality education and you tie that to financial upward economic mobility that is clear, right? You start to see kids have more relevance to their learning, but their intrinsic motivation and hope starts to really take in this empowerment, this kind of livelihood amongst itself. So the results that have happened in the work that I do right now with leaders is specific. It's around, what's the vision do you have for your school? Like at the end of this year, how do you determine if you were successful or not? What is the culture around innovation? And I say this too, I want to go back to what Dean said. A lot of times we're in our mindset, we look at negative features. We say, this is why we can't do this. This is why we can't do that. This is why we can't do that. We look at these barriers, right? And we always tell other people, don't have this deficit mindset. But let alone many leaders across our country, unfortunately, we operate within it. But how about we look at the other end? What's the best that we can do? What is in our zone of genius? We're here on platforms connecting across the country, social capital, Twitter spaces, all these different places where we can build communities, digital organizations to start bringing resources in. So my role is, I like to say, I'm like you have the Secretary of Education, the United States Secretary. I'm like the United States principal of crypto, right? And the reason I say that is because I want everybody here listening. Crypto is more than just a currency. It's a culture. It's a community. It's a technology. It's accessibility. And it's a currency. It's a currency that provides access to technology that allows a community to thrive, right? So when you think about how those things intertwine, now we start seeing, how can we leverage the culture, which is a culture shift, a community, the technology to provide access and use it with a currency. They say, if you want to change the world, change the currency, right? So when we think about how do we now start educating our educators, our principals around this, well, I start slowly by saying, you're already doing some things that are similar when it comes to crypto. I'll give you an example. Have any of you guys ever been at a school where you have a point system?
Sure.
We were kids. You got dolphin bucks, you got tiger bucks, you got all these different points. Yep. Do those points mean anything outside of that school? Nope. Right? But you build value with those points, right?
Yep.
You say those points can get you a homework pass, a free dress pass, some chips, all these different things. You build what's called a utility to those points. So in essence, if it, take away it being on blockchain, I'm not going to go real meta right there. Essentially, you created your own token economy at your school. So what is the difference? If we said, let's build your token economy, but let's make it transparent by putting it with a technology that allows for it to be permissionless for parents and everyone to see all the transactions that's happening, not just within the app, but through a community allowed to see it. Will that really shift what you're doing? You're still doing the same thing. But now let's say if we take it a level further, what if we said, instead of your little dolphin bucks, you had them, but it was actually had a monetary value underneath it? Do you think the kids will look at it a little differently?
Yep.
So when we think about crypto, we think about a culture shift. We think about the technology, again, that allows you in the school system to do some similar things, but use an underlying technology and use actual currency to drive academic results.
It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. And I love the connectivity when you're talking about token economy. When we write behavioral plans, you're getting points for doing good things. You add them up at the end of the week and you get a prize at the end of the week. You're right. We are doing this at this point in time in many different ways. But when you create a culture and a community that believes in it, and all of a sudden now it takes off and it has monetary value, that's a whole new ballgame. That's a paradigm shift from anything I knew as a kid growing up. And I went back to what I said to Josh, and 10 years ago, and I'm sitting with a couple of people in my house, in my kitchen, and the guy goes, "Yeah, invest a little bit in Bitcoin. It'll probably be okay. What do you got? You get $10,000, $5,000?" I'm like, "Yeah, you out of your mind?" I said, "This is crazy." And then you look up 10 years later, and look what happened. So it's evolving, and if we don't evolve in public schools like what's happening around us, shame on us, because we're not doing the right thing then.
And if I could say this too, when you think of crypto and you think of, let's say, for example, the metaverse, and the metaverse in the sense of gaming, VR, AR, this people don't see, again, those who oppose will look at the negative things. They will look at the change factor, right? Of like, they're resisting the change. And they look at it through a deficit lens versus the best case. Like, have you thought about those who are severely handicapped now being able to experience walking in the metaverse? Right? Have you ever experienced somebody who had these different deficits, but now can actually experience it through augmented in VR? Right? Have you thought about how we could now take away unconscious bias and implicit bias when it comes to how we now react in this digital world? Right? So there's a lot of factors that impacts like learning that is going to make it profound. But then on top of that, when you're experiencing this, right, what is the currency that's used within the transaction that takes place, which is so ingrained in our human culture? So that is where crypto thrives. That's where crypto brings learning alive. And that's where we all must understand we're all on, look, I got two phones. We're all on our phones, right? We're on our phones so much of the time. We have to now see that the metaverse is a transition from us valuing just physical to now valuing the digital. It is the time in our history where digital assets become more valuable than the physical asset. For example, like, what makes that football that Tom Brady threw in the last touchdown worth $500,000? Like, who cares? Just Tom Brady, and literally it's just a football. If you really want to break down, it's just a football, right? But now more people, it's the same concept of somebody saying, well, why is that JPEG picture worth $100,000, right? It's because we're in this world where we're living digitally. That blue check on Twitter means so much to people, right? Where that is a value. And then the scarcity drives it up because people want to feel inclusive. People want to feel part of the community. People want to be part of the country club. People want to feel part of these two organizations. And we must learn the power of storytelling, community, culture, because those are going to be the jobs and the skill sets, and those who have those abilities will be able to thrive the most when it comes to what is needed for companies in the future.
Principal Rahh, I got one question for you. What were your biggest challenges moving in this type of way for your vision to really take hold? Because it's you you can't put your hands on it. It's not tangible. It's happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah. So I would say this. So for those who don't know, and somebody come in late, I'm the founder of K-12 Crypto, and K-12 Crypto is a learn to earn platform that allows students to earn cryptocurrency based off of metrics that they meet in school. This means that they can learn anything from anywhere and essentially earn money for doing it, right? But they don't get access to the crypto until they graduate from high school. And this happens from K through 12, right? So essentially, kids will be able to do input output, meaning that they will be able to work, learn, and earn to fund their future, right? So they are able to be exposed to different things from, hey, learn how to drop your LP on Spotify. Oh, you can get tokens for that. Oh, you know what? I want to learn how to, the Roblox have education. Like you can learn different things from Roblox. Boom, you can earn money for it, right? Or I can just learn how to subtract and regroup through this certain module and earn money for it, right? And this is a way for us to expose kids through a revolutionary way through technology like CTE pathways. But it's also really important for us to support students in the future and really put our money where our mouth is, right? Because students are creators, they're explorers. They should be looked at like that, not looked at the other way, where we have a $1.7 trillion student loan debt crisis in our country. And our current system is we do all this work. Let's be honest. Can we be honest real quick? From K to 12, we talk college, and then career. We say college and career, right? And remember, the point of college was to upskill our students to become employable in the workforce. So when we think about this, in our public school system, education is free. Boom, they become seniors, they graduate, and then we don't teach financial education. But then kids are faced with the biggest financial decision of their life almost. So most kids have to borrow money so they can continue their learning, just so they can learn enough to hopefully get a job to pay back what they borrowed in the first place. That's a diabolical system. Does it work for many of us who went to go get higher ed? Absolutely. But I can assure you, if we just do a survey, how many of us are still dreadful with student loan debt? You'll probably see it go, a lot of people have student loan debt, right? So when we think about this, right, we can really transform how our system operates. Instead of pay to learn, kids could learn to earn. Because right now, I mean, we've all seen it. These Netflix documentaries. We have 16 of our elite universities and colleges that's on the books for predatory lending to underserved kids. So blockchain allows for these type of transactions to be transparent. So our platform and what we're building is K-12 Crypto to be that launch pad, right? But not only for young people, but we're also going to be preparing parent university and teacher university type of courses to teach people around financial literacy when it comes to crypto education, around blockchain technology, around what NFTs are, what they're supposed to be, around all these different things that are transpiring in this new world that's being built, that if we are not building it now, we're going to be left behind, and we're going to be fighting the same things now 10 years from now.
So as we talk about Web3 and now we are the content creators, now we're the product that's out there. How do you embed that with the program that you've established at your high school, that they're the entrepreneurs? How are you guiding your students to ensure that they become the full focus, that they become the ones that are ready to conquer at that level?
Yeah, I think the first thing is I'm a big history person, right? Like in order to know Sankofa is a word that I use all the time. I even got it tattooed on me. Sankofa means to know where you're going, you have to remember where you came from. You have to know where you came from. So when we're talking about Web3, you said Web3, and I'm glad you said that. But those who don't know, we haven't talked enough about what is the history of the internet. We're in a technological world. We're on the internet right now, right? And we teach our kids the history of the internet. Why did the internet start? What was that innovation for? That technology has been used and leveraged starting in, I believe, 1983. right? 1983, the internet started. And then that was Web 1 from 1983 pretty much to 2000. That's when you start to see these companies used to make all the content. We read it. They made money off of us and all those great things, right? And then Web 2 started like 2003, 2002. You have MySpace and social media. So from 2000 to now, we're pretty much in what was known as Web 2. That's where all these entrepreneurs was like, why are we working so hard to make the content? We can have them make the content and make our money for us. Like what we're doing for Facebook right now, right? We have all these people on Facebook, and Facebook is getting all this attention to their platform to be able to get all the people here. Now they're going to get advertisement and all this stuff, and we're making the money. No shame, great platform. But the creators who have these huge platforms start to say, we need a cut of the pie. That's not fair. So now you're starting to see these platforms start to say, you can monetize your platform. That's why on Instagram, Facebook, they have you can monetize your platform, right? So now we are in what's called Web 3. Web 3 is the creator economy, because people who created are now saying that we deserve ownership. We deserve our rights. We deserve a piece of the pie, but not only us. The people that follow us and are part of us, the community, should also be a part of it. Because without the people, there is no me. Without the people, there is no Kafele. Without the people, there is no platform. So they should be able to monetize as the platform grows as well. So this is where crypto comes in, because now instead of just saying, well, we can just distribute shares, how many of you guys are going to go IPO for NASDAQ and be on the Fortune 5? You know how many gatekeepers exist? So decentralized, meaning that we're decentralizing from the central corporation that has gatekeep wealth, privilege, and power, meaning that like I'm not an accredited investor, so I didn't have a chance to invest in Uber. You know what I mean? I didn't have a chance to invest. I had to wait for them to go public before I can do it. So now Web3 allows us to even the playing field and learn that we can be part of it as well.
So one of the things you talked about, you gave us for a topic is trauma. Now, where does trauma fit in with all of this? I want to hear from your perspective and how you can intertwine that in with crypto and the vision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people really understand the intersection of wealth and trauma, right? Like, for example, coming from where I come from, there's a lot of people, mental health is looked at as trying to survive in your circumstances. Let me teach you how to survive within poverty, right? Let me teach you how to find happiness when you feel like, when somebody is feeling like they're living with the walls caving in, right? And yes, there's a part where that's valuable, but I can tell you this. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of people, you start understanding how you have a skill that you can make money with, it start to change a little bit of how you feel. You start to walk around with your chest up a little bit and your chin up, and you're like, your confidence is a little bit different. I don't know about y'all, but just take some qualitative research. Look people's faces when it's payday. Look at them. When it's the week, when it's the first of the month, or if you whatever your district, they got coffee, they got some new shoes, they start feeling good, they start walking a little bit different. There is no difference when it comes to when you broke. If you've ever lost a whole bunch of money, your stomach feels a little tight. You feel a little sick. It may be hard for you to sleep. That's a traumatic experience. But imagine if you were living in that. Imagine if you never had the hope to be able to see like, oh, there's a way out. So where trauma intersects with financial literacy is that many communities that I serve lack upward economic mobility within the community. Crypto, because it's permissionless and it's accessible globally, it allows you to participate in the economy and participate in upward economic mobility, no matter where you are at, as long as you are in your jurisdiction, you're allowed to invest or participate in cryptocurrency. So using this as a tool can allow people to provide hope for kids to see the possibilities that exist, which now we can talk about the hope that can help them overcome some of their traumatic experiences.
I love equity and access. If you stop and think about it, those are two words that are probably synonymous with what you're talking about, because it doesn't see color, it doesn't see race, it doesn't see background, it doesn't see culture. It sees opportunity to be inclusive as in one without being regulated, which I love. And one of the things I see, and I do have some crypto, and I've played around a little bit with it. And you know what? I haven't done all that well with it, but I know if I hold on for a while as the community grows, that it might be a beneficial thing for myself and my family. Now, with that being said, with so many crypto coins out there at this point in time, what happens when a market becomes saturated? There becomes so many different coins to be part of. And how can you say to somebody that it's still going to be a valuable thing when it gets to that level?
Yeah, I mean, I think where there's people, there's power, right? And that's first. Where there's a community, there's power. But I would say this, like, the evidence of learning is through application. Like it's always, and I say that is that, you know, when you think about the best investors, they had to take an L somewhere along the line. They ask any great investor, they can tell you a horror story where they lost a whole bunch of money or they lost on this, right? And I would say that when we're thinking about crypto, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, but there's no guarantees in anything. Well, I take it back. There's a guarantee. We all got a begin date. We all got an end date, right? We got that, right? And we all got to pay taxes, right? We got that. But in regards of this, I think it's important that we learn what the whole point of crypto was. Like the whole point when Bitcoin was created, and I encourage you, if you want to learn why crypto exists, go read what's called the white paper of Bitcoin. Just Google white paper of Bitcoin, read it, let it sit with you for a while. The reason why Bitcoin was created was because we have lived in a central banking system that has done so much disservice to underserved communities and has provided inequities in our banking system. If you don't believe me, let's give an example. During most major crashes, if you go look at the Panic of 1907, you can go. I don't want to geek out because you know I can go geek out. The Panic. If you don't know about the Panic of 1907, go Google Panic of 1907, and you'll learn about the grandfather shake of the Federal Reserve Act that happened a few years later and J.P. Morgan Chase. But I ain't gonna go all the way there. But I would say this: we understand in a simple context. Let's say that you have $100,000 in your bank account. And you go to Chase, could you get that $100,000 out without a problem?
Nope.
No, why can't you? That's your money. Why can't you? If you wanted to let's say I went on a trip to Europe. I went to London, and Dean, I said, man, I need help. I need you to send me $10,000. Oh, you think it's going to get to me like that?
Nope.
Why?
It's regulated.
Right? This regulation but also people have to get a piece of the pie too. You got to get a piece of pie. So Bitcoin was created for the people to be able to transact money without a middleman, right? Because they felt like during these types of times, the inequities it was like hyperscale. So it gave the power to the people through a decentralized way. So I say this is that it's important for us to learn the why, so you can understand how it has evolved. And now you start to see people make all kind of crazy coins. There's like 4,000 coins. But I think you're still looking at it in the currency. We're not even looking at how it's been a tool to provide artists with their rightful doings, right? We know the music industry has been tough. We know the media has been tough. We know all these different places have been tough. What you're going to start seeing is more companies are going to start offering ways to for their community to benefit from the growth of their business, and I think that is what's going to change exponentially in the next 5 years.
I'm glad that you mentioned that about the white paper. For those of you that, as a history teacher, I love what you're saying. I could talk to you about all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But for all educators out there, I mean, Principal Amen mentioned something great about knowing the white papers, and then also who's backing that coin, who's backing that investment. And those are the easy things. Now, besides the white paper, and that's too nerdy, is like you said, that some people are saying, hold on, what can you give the 101, the 10th year educator, English 3 in the middle of Iowa? What kind of resource can you get them that it's not over complicated like a white paper and everything that's tied to that? What kind of resources can you give them? Because to me, always give me, in caveman talk, something simple for me to research at my level. Because if you start talking Web3, white paper, I just lost 90% of the educators.
Yeah.
What resources do you have out there?
Yeah, so I would definitely join in with community. First thing is there's a Discord, there's a group called Ed3 DAO, which is Decentralized Autonomous Organization, that you can go into and learn with other educators what this is all about. Right? There's one called K20, right? K20 Educators. K20 Educators is another organization providing firsthand educators to educators, teaching you around what cryptocurrency is and what Web3 is, what all these different acronyms are. I also taught special education. So these acronyms, wait, we're all educators, man. They get an acronym for everything. We're going to be great at crypto because it's all it is this, offer of faith, your IDEA, it's all these acronyms. So you should be fine. But K20 Educators is a great resource to help you with learning crypto from educators who can explain it in a way that is educator friendly. I would also look at a newsletter. This newsletter is by a great friend of mine. His name is I could put his Twitter name. His name is Alejandro. Alejandro is a great resource when it comes to on Twitter, learning more about crypto, the metaverse, and Web3. And my last one is C. Dixon. C. Dixon on Twitter is a great resource as well. But K20 Educators, that would be my first go-to with learning, because you're with a community of educators learning about crypto and Web3.
So, Principal Rahh, I just wanted to throw out one more thing if I could. And it was talking, you said the word the metaverse. We've tossed that around. We know that we're all evolving. Education has to evolve. We have to, 10, 20 years from now, it's going to look different than what it is. And I can say that because things are moving so fast outside of education that they need to in order to keep up with the skill sets. You show me one 5th through 8th grader that's not playing Fortnite, playing video games at a high level, getting out there and doing things that are just different, that has to be germane to them. So we will move in that direction. But what does the metaverse mean?
Yeah, and I want to say this too before I get to what the metaverse means. Please, I charge you, if you're on, I encourage you, learn, DM me, talk. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a one point in time where people were against the credit cards and cards being used and all these different things. Like, what are we using cards for? And we just need to use cash. And like now, if you use cash, you're like, whoa, what's going on? You have cash? I haven't seen $100 bill in a long time. Like, everybody's using cards. They got new wallets now, right? Like, it's like, nobody's carrying that around. I remember what was it when we talked about crypto? That's where it's at now, right? We're talking about crypto, and everybody's like, no, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's happening, you guys. At one point in time, people would be fearful of letting a stranger get in a car with a stranger and let them take you somewhere. Now everybody's calling an Uber. There's parents that call their kids an Uber to take them to school. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would have been crazy to think of something like that, right? Who would have thought that one day you would own a house and let strangers just come in and sleep in your house? Well, that's happening in Airbnb.
Airbnb, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's understand that you saying, well, we'll never have another exchange. Listen, 10 years from now, the way that you go to a business and they say, hey, we take Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, they're going to also say, hey, we take Bitcoin, this coin, that coin, this coin, and that coin, right? If you don't believe me, just let time tell. but that's going to happen, right? So I think it's important for you to learn about that. Now you got to ask your question. Now you got to ask yourself this question. You know this. I've told you this right now. If you got kids and you're in front of kids and you withhold this information, what are you doing? Are you saying that you're preparing them for the future? Times have changed. Time will always change. Time will always change. I'm a history person. If you study history, it always changes. History shows us we evolve. I don't care. If you don't like it, you think the technology cares?
Nope.
You got self-driving cars. You telling me we're not going to have crypto? So now we have to ask ourselves, what are the careers? Who's going to benefit? Right now, we do not expose our students to enough coding, which is the universal, the global language. Coding should be, if your school is not teaching some of the basics of coding, even with gaming, you are missing out on a universal language. Why is that important? Right now, you don't need a college degree. If you know how to code or know how to do user interface or UX or UI design, you can go and get 6-figure paying jobs just like that. You think they care about your degree? No. Because there's a shortage, supply and demand. So it's very important for us to understand why crypto exists, what crypto is doing for marginalized communities, not only in our country, but globally. And then what are the skills that are needed to thrive in this ecosystem? And that's the game changer. So that's the game changer.
Principal Amen, as we close right now, in your opinion, in your words, tell us your top 5 coins you're holding. I want to know.
You're going to read the bottom, though. Prospectus says, I'm not a financial advisor.
He's not a financial advisor. But tell me your top 5 things you're holding.
Yeah, this is definitely not financial advice. But I'm lucky enough to have, I only have one, but I have Bitcoin. I got one Bitcoin. I have Ethereum. I have Cardano. I have XRP, and I got so many coins, but I would say those are my top 4. And then I have my sleeper pick is Gnosis.
Well, I got 4 of those, so I feel you. Hey, Principal Amen, we're getting close to that 50-minute mark. Is there something we didn't ask you? Anything you need to add right now in closing?
Yeah. Within all this, we didn't get a chance to talk around what NFTs are, and NFTs is another part where we do things with our kids around NFTs. I have some of my kids across the country with schools I work with. They're launching NFTs next month, and an NFT is known as a non-fungible token. But just really quickly and briefly, we focus on problem-based learning when it comes to our NFT launch with kids. The first thing that we do with our kids is we have them identify a problem in their community or in the world. Once they identify a problem, they create a problem statement. Then they have to develop a product that can solve that problem, right? So they feel it can be the most craziest thing. They just develop a product. And then they develop art that is a symbol that identifies with that product or problem. So they develop this art, which becomes a digital asset. And then they do a story. They write a story, a narrative that invites people who cares about that problem and likes that product to be part of the community. That is the NFT now that they launched, they mint. And then they have that story, that story be part of the copy that gets people to want to be involved with that NFT. An NFT should do 3 different things. One is you buy it because it's just really dope art, right? You're like, yo, this is really amazing. I want to support the artist, but I just love it. 2, it provides you access. Or 3, it provides you community on a mission. And I think those 3 things will guide you in the right places. I wouldn't encourage anybody going to buy an NFT just to try to flip and make money. I mean, is it possible? Yeah, absolutely. But you will never go wrong if you're buying it for a certain access that you need a certain community that you need, or if you just love the art. But I'll leave you with those three things, and we're excited for our kids to be launching it.
Thank you very much, Principal Amen Rahh, for being here. And thank you for dropping all those bombs, all those nuggets of knowledge. We really appreciate you for giving us all that. NFTs, cryptocurrency, meta, entrepreneurship, just from top to bottom, A to Z. Dean, I learned a lot. How about you?
I did too. And how about calling kids creators and explorers? Now, somebody who's been in leadership for a long time, those two words could be defining every student that comes into your building. Think of it that way. And that just sets the tone for a whole nother mindset. So great stuff. I'm walking away with a lot of nuggets tonight. And thank you so much. And you know what? The least of which, we do need to evolve. We need to recognize what's out there right now and provide our kids with the tools and the access points for them to be successful. And yeah, you know what? I'm going back to my tech teachers and I'm going to look at that coding and say, how can we make it bigger? How can we beef that up a little bit? Because all kids do need to have that type of options. Problem-based learning, been around for a long time, but I love that segue in how to create that coin. I'll tell you, that is just beautiful. So that's what I got. Anything else?
Hey, that's it, man. Change the world. Don't let the world change you.
Stay out in front of it. That's great advice. Hey, be well. Thank you so much, Principal Rahh. We appreciate you. Thursday night. Go ahead, Josh.
Thursday night, 7 p.m. Red Zone. Join us.
Red Zone, baby.
Table. All of us learning from each other. Have a great week.
Getting a little better together. That's what we do. Have a great week, is right.